What's up, bros? Welcome to another Brograph Broadcast. I am Dave.
And I'm Matt. And today on the show, we have one of my favorite C4D artists of all time, Mr. EJ Hassenfratz.
Oh, get out of here. Get out of here.
I've been looking forward to this show for a really long time. You know,
Me too.
Ever since we talked about having you on, I've got to say I'm really looking forward to this one.
In that crazy night in Vegas, which could go a bunch of different ways, but we're just going to leave it at that.
Yep, totally.
Lots of pinball action.
So
that could go
now,
different ways as well. No,
we've had a few problems with your name in the past. Is it Hassenfratz? Hassenfratz?
Hassenfratz. Very guttural. Yes.
Okay, good.
All right.
Get to the chopper, Hassenfratz. Gotta
Very
get the
cool.
aw.
So, welcome to the show.
Thanks
Really
for
excited to
having
have you
me.
here.
Good to bro it up with you guys.
Heck yeah.
If you guys haven't heard the show before, because we have a lot of new listeners coming in, this is a show about not only Cinema 4D, but the industry, like motion graphics, owning your own business, and all of that kind of stuff. It's a supplement to Brograph.com where we have tutorials and such. So we're going to talk about all sorts of stuff today, hopefully, not just Cinema 4D. So first of all, I would like to ask about like your background, because I don't even know like where you came from as far as Cinema 4D.
Yeah, where did you come from?
Where'd you come from? The planet of 3D. I don't know. Well, I actually, when I went to school, I learned fine arts. So I didn't even take like animation or anything like that in college. So, I'm like a lot of people who have been self-taught. So no After Effects, no nothing in college, and now these days it's like, man, these crazy kids, they're animating in like high school and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's just nuts. So you got to keep up with that. But yeah, so I did fine arts, drawing and painting and sculpture and pottery and photography, and not the digital one, the one where you have to fumble in the dark with your film and sniff.
It's good to
chemicals.
have that, though.
Man, that like I'm super jealous of that. Like I feel like in this industry, like if you have a background like that, you'll be so much more successful than just going straight into 3D, you know?
Totally.
Or or you could just be a huge stoner like a lot of the kids that I went to school in the art department there. But yeah, I mean that was definitely fun because of that, tactile experience, your hands-on creation, and not everything being digital as it is now, which, that's a whole subject for another day about like how to keep up with that kind of stuff, which I wish I had more time to do.
So how long have you been doing 3D?
So I've been doing 3D for about 8 years. So yeah, I mean,
Nice.
I started with After Effects and actually got into it because, when I was in college, I loved to draw and I knew that, and I loved art, but I just didn't know what the heck I wanted to do. I'm not one of these people who, I know a lot of people that they saw something, they saw some ad, some agency, aired, and they're like, wow, that looks amazing, I want to do that. But for me, it was a little bit different. My dad and my uncle are art directors, and they do graphic design. So that's kind of like my thing. I was like, well, I've been to my dad's work a bunch of time, and that's like kind of cool. And my mom was studying to be a doctor, and I'd see her come home with these medical books with like, she's studying like lacerations and showing me these pictures, and I'm like,
Nice.
yeah, no, I don't like that. I think I'm gonna make the pretty pictures. Hi, Dad.
That's funny.
So that's kind of why, my dad and my uncle were big inspirations for me and what I'm doing right now. And my dad actually gave me my first opportunity for an internship at a local news station in Pittsburgh. So I actually grew up in Pittsburgh at the NBC station.
Good old
there.
news stations.
Good old news stations, yeah. So, I mean, that's really how I cut my teeth, was working in news for, I've been doing MoGraph for, man, I don't even know. How am I like 10 years?
Nice.
I've been doing MoGraph for 10 years. I've been doing it in news for a majority of that, maybe like 7-8 years. So
Are you still working for some of the news stations and stuff? Like freelance?
Not really. I've only done it once in the past couple years, so I typically try to stay away from that just because of the I'm like, I've moved from that. I want to move on, and I don't.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the stigma where I'm like, I left you guys. I don't want to do this again.
Right.
But yeah, it's not a big deal. But I mean, it's one of those things where I always compare it to, news where your biggest deadline or your longest deadline might be a week, maybe a few days, and you're like, oh, it's so much time.
Yeah.
But it's like I call it the fast food of MoGraph, just because you're banging out those turd burgers left and right, and just this is good enough, get it out of here. So I think that was the one of the biggest transitions for me was going from that, where like my mind wasn't used to long-term project thinking. Like it was so, I need to think of a concept that isn't very fleshed out and just go with that. But then having all that time that's available for some of these freelance projects that I work on now, where it's like you have a couple months, maybe even more than that, and you're just like, I don't even know where to begin. Like there's so much air there. But yeah, I think that's something I still feel like I struggle with every day, where it's like you're used to making hamburgers all the time, and then it's like now you got to make a really fancy 4-course meal at this very distinguished restaurant, like 5-star restaurant. You're like, oh man, right? Yeah, they don't want hamburgers; they want like some fancy steak, and gotta learn how to cook, and you can't just stick it in a microwave.
Yeah. Dave and I worked for a company. That's where we met, where we were basically banging out logos for commercials, like crappy local commercials and stuff, like every day, over and over and over again. Yeah. So
to the same jingle.
To the same jingle.
That's right. I remember that.
We can knock out a logo real quick. But I agree with you. Trying to coming from that background as well to moving over to where you've got more time. It definitely. I've found that I try to, all the little stuff that I'm like, oh, we don't really have time for, I try and nitpick some of my projects a little bit more now.
Right.
Having that time, I guess. So
now, on that note, you've got big projects, small projects, and whatnot. And sometimes they're not necessarily like just run and gun, get this logo out the door kind of thing. But sometimes you have like a small project that's actually pretty decent. But do you prefer having a bunch of little small projects or having one really big project to work on?
I think that's like it's almost like my mood. I feel like if I got big project after big project after big projects, I'd probably be like, okay, I want a bunch of small ones, just because it's such a time commitment. I would say the biggest thing is every time you sign up for a client project, it could be awesome or it could be really bad. So it's this thing where if it's an awesome project and you have it for 3 months, then you're in happy fun time land. But if it sucks, you're in there till the end. And I would say that's the only bad thing. Whereas if it's a short project, if it's fun, it's fun. And then you move on to the next one. Or if it sucks, it's okay because it's going to be over soon anyway. So I don't know. I personally, for me, I like a mix. But if I were to pick... Yeah, I think I would just have to go with a mix, because at least the long-term stuff, that's kind of like all right, well, I got 2 months booked up out of the year, and that's great. That's a fifth of my year that I don't have to worry about, or a sixth. Yeah, sixth. I can do maths.
But there's actually kind of an element when you're working with small projects. I guess if it's a regular client, it's going to be fine. It's okay. But there's kind of an element of like if you all of a sudden you have like 10 small projects come in the door, it's not really the projects themselves sometimes. Sometimes it's actually dealing with the client interaction part of it, like emails and phone calls, and for 10 projects as opposed to emails and phone calls for one project.
Yeah,
right.
I can see that. I don't know. I personally would prefer smaller projects, because I did this one project one time. It took me a year and a half, and the guy was just so nitpicky about everything, and like we were way past our due date, but whatever. He wanted it perfect.
Yeah. Well, I think it just goes down to the thing where if it's a sucky project, it's going to suck no matter what.
Yeah.
But if it's good, yeah. I think it just comes down to what kind of project is it.
So let me ask you about, so you do like, okay, so we call it the EJ Hassenfratz style,
Yeah, what is the sketch and tune stuff?
Yeah, it's like the 3D sketch and tune stuff, in my opinion, I was telling Paul Babb this on that interview that we did with him, that like you're one of my favorite artists specifically because I feel like it's so different than what everyone else is doing in our industry. Everyone is trying to go for the Beeple Ashthorpe type stuff, and you're
dystopian landscape with a guy standing there in an astronaut.
Right.
Yeah.
So
and, like, what is that guy doing in each of those shots?
Yeah.
Like, it's just that guy. He like stumbles upon all this crazy stuff. Like I want there to be a movie about that guy.
Yeah.
So I'm just going for what? What the hell is this?
It's a giant head.
Yeah, it's a giant head in the middle of a desert. How'd I get in the middle of a desert? This is very remote. I really got lost here.
I think it's a Homer Simpson thing. I think he ate the chili pepper. And
he's hallucinating?
Yeah, I think so. He's looking for a spirit animal.
So anyway, you've got this specific, like, you create these fun little, cute little, cartoony animation stuff. And like, I love that style. I think it's super cool, and it's neat to be like, I didn't know you could do that type of stuff in Cinema 4D. I thought all of that had to be like Toon Boom or something like that. What made you get into the whole, like, that style?
Yeah. So I think one of the main reasons is, I don't know. I think I just got caught in, well, actually, I think the story goes back to, I would be working with clients and, I had one specifically that would always be like, oh, I do all this, we get all this work for 2D stuff, but, EJ's just a 3D guy. And I'm like, but it's just that I don't do it that much. I can still do it. But so that was kind of like, all right, well, I want to get into this. And then I met a buddy of mine, Dan Dolly. He's swell.tv, SWELL.tv. And he's like an amazing animator, just all around good dude. And I was just looking at his stuff and just his silky smooth animations. And he's just like the keyframe maestro. And I was like, I need to get on that level. But the thing is that every time, I do a project in 3D, it's almost like there's just so much more to it than just keyframing. It's, you gotta light it, you gotta texture it, you gotta, what kind of camera move do you want to do? Like, modeling, if I need to make an element, I have to like model it hardcore or something like that. And then it's like file sizes and your computer slows down and reflections and render time. And, so it's like this thing where, like I said, I've been self-taught, so I feel like for the longest time, was on that, I like what Beeple does, and I want to do that, but at the same time, I don't know, like I don't have a solid foundation of design knowledge or animation fundamentals or anything like that, so I feel like, I don't know.
I'm looking
like
at this swell.tv stuff, and it's really good.
Yeah, Dan's amazing. But it was like this thing where I got on the bike with training wheels, and I'm like, yeah, this is fine. I can ride a bike. And then you see that like a very massive hill's coming, and then you're a little bit like, oh no, like I really don't know how to ride a bike after all, and I really don't want to like eat it. So I should probably, before I get too far, really step back and actually learn how to properly ride a bike, or like learn the fundamentals. And so Dan was one of the guys that really helped me like self-reflect, I guess, and look at the stuff I was doing currently or at that time and be like, wow, I'm really weak at these things. And that's a hard thing as an artist to kind of admit that, in my career that far, which is probably, 6-7 years into my career, I'm like, I'm really lacking in very critical areas. And I think there's probably a lot of people struggle with that they are self-taught as well, and they didn't get that base of that foundational knowledge. So back to the whole, the
you
sketch
almost
and tune
always
thing.
feel like you're missing something that everyone else knows, but you don't because you don't have that background.
Exactly.
I feel like that all the time.
Yeah. So the thing is that I was so, my workflow switched from learning After Effects and then learning Cinema 4D, and just Cinema 4D just was like, it was so intuitive, and I didn't have to RAM preview things and no bugs and all this other stuff. And I just got so deep into that world that I wanted to go back to basics and just kind of strip everything down to its basic design aspects of like form and shape and color, and not have to worry about really hardcore lighting techniques or texturing or bump maps or reflections and all that kind of stuff. So the sketch and tune thing was something where I was like, oh, well, I can do like 2D flat stuff in 3D, and the sketch and tune module's been out for years and years and years. But yeah, like you guys said, no one really uses it at the time. So I was like, man, I need to, and that it was actually hard to learn it just because there was really nothing out there that was teaching people how to do it. And it's a very deep module, but the basics, once you make sense of how everything's laid out, it's actually really easy. So that was the main barrier, was just kind of slogging through to learn what worked, what things worked, how the cell shading worked, the outlines is something that still to this day, I'm like, why is that doing that? Why is that line not showing up? Because it's a difficult thing, because you're trying to outline objects in 3D space, and it just, it's quite a feat to calculate all that stuff and try to flatten it all. But so that's basically how I went down that route of the sketch and tune stuff, was just because at that point, to make a animation that's interesting, or a composition that's interesting, what I was doing for the longest time was like, oh, well, this might look crappy, but you know what? If I put a sexy reflection and a sexy HDR image on top of it, like, it's gonna look like you could have a poo emoji, and it's gonna look awesome if you add all these like stock textures and stuff on there. But really, all I was doing was, at the end of the day, it was just a poop emoji with all this shiny, glossy stuff on it. So it was like the lipstick on the pig, and I just kept making pigs, and the lipstick just got better and better. But so yeah, it was just, the sketch and tune thing for me just stripped away all that stuff, and you just had to make sure that really your animation's going to stand on the design, the color, and the animation. So that's when I really focused on learning animation fundamentals and really honing in on that, and then like the color stuff as well. So
seeing all your stuff, it totally feels like you have a full animation background. Like when I watch it, like, I love the secondary movements and stuff like that of all the little animations that you do, and like you look at your stuff and you really think that, oh, this guy went to animation school. Like, where did you kind of learn your animation techniques and stuff? Because like me personally, I learned it from the Animator's Survival Guide or something, as one of my favorite references for animation.
So I actually have that book, and I'm pretty pathetic, and I didn't even get that far into it, just because I don't know.
No, me neither.
I'm just weird like that. I feel like if I need to learn something on a computer, a book is just not the way I consume knowledge these days. So it was this thing where I knew other people's stuff looked good, but I just didn't know why. And I feel like with design, I'm still struggling with like color theory and stuff like that, trying to get better. But really the thing that helped me the most was Joey Corman. He does animation boot camp at School of Motion. So schoolofmotion.com, I believe it is. And I met him at NAB a couple years back, and I did a podcast with him. And he's like, "Hey, you should just sign up for it. Let me know what you think about it." And he just was an amazing teacher, and he kind of just laid out everything. Like he explained all the things where it's like, yeah, you look at this stuff and you realize that our eye likes things that things are pleasing to our eye that kind of replicates motion that we see in real life. Exactly. Yeah. So it's like that thing where it's like, oh yeah, I guess so. So like, a stock ease and ease out, ease in, ease out is not a natural thing. You don't see that in real life. So it was this thing where his class just really demystified the whole animation thing for me. And it's like, I knew that I was doing some things correctly, but again, it was just like, I didn't know why. I didn't know, the sine curves and stuff, and a descending sine curve for, springy movements and stuff like that. I would just use the ease and whiz, and yeah, that looks great.
And overshoot. So is real life overshoot then?
No, I would say that. Well, no, let's say it's just embellished. It's like cartoony embellishment of maybe real life things or optical illusion. So if something is moving really fast, it looks like it kind of bends. I don't know.
Oh yeah,
but just that.
Yeah, I mean, that is the whole animation. That's the animation techniques that they teach you in, that they've taught since the very beginning.
Oh yeah.
I want to say it was Disney or
even on The Simpsons, you'll see it. Like, if somebody moves real fast.
That is the technique set up, 80 years ago.
There's a whole Tumblr site blog somewhere that's dedicated to that, where they have screenshots of like Looney Tunes and different characters like in that mid transition point where they're all twisty and distorted.
Yeah. So it's just like embellishment of all that stuff that really adds a lot of flow and just, it's all the things that pleases your eye. And I think the reason why it took me so long to really sit down and learn it was, number one, there's really not a lot of good online resources for that. And I think that's what Joey's animation boot camp was like, laid out in such a way that it was very easy to digest. It was fun. He's a really great instructor. But the other thing is that, I got stuck on the whole thing of like, oh, there's a new tutorial out that looks really hot. Like, that's awesome. Like, I want to learn how to do that one thing. And it makes some really weird but cool looking abstract thing that I probably would never actually use in a workflow. But I got stuck on that whole Beeple train. Like, oh, I want to try to recreate what Beeple did. But at the same time,
right,
I was neglecting all of the other places that I really needed to work on. So all my foundational stuff. And that's the stuff where that's not sexy. You don't look at Beeple's stuff and you're like, I really love that color range or that color harmony in his composition. You're just like, I want to make that head coming out of sand, the giant head sculpture. Like, how do I make that?
It's good technical practice, like to go through the motions. That's a good way to learn. But there's something about having those fundamentals that is so hard for, I think, a lot of people. I'm the same way. I think Matt's the same way, where we came from kind of that background, but like no official C4D schooling.
Yeah,
it's a hard thing to learn.
I actually learned Cinema 4D from initially grayscale, like we all do. I learned how to, extrude a logo, and then Dave basically taught me the rest. Like, because we worked at the same company. I got hired on as just a video editor. And he was a 3D animator at the time, and I was like, hey, I want to try Cinema 4D. I've opened it up. I like Grayscale Gorilla, you know?
Yeah.
And so, like, he sat down with me one day and totally showed me the ins and outs of how to create a logo and make it look pretty. And so then I just kept on doing it, and then our art director would throw more stuff at us. Man, it got me excited.
Lather, rinse, repeat.
Yeah. So that's the thing is you look at all the stuff that people are doing and you're like, oh, and then the grayscale stuff and you're like, whoa, dynamics and all that stuff. But yeah, the fundamentals of animation is not a sexy thing. And it's something that you really need to, like, it's not just a tutorial that can easily be digested in half an hour. It's like hours and hours of just digesting, watching someone animate things by hand, and then not only doing that, but you actually have to, like, you can't just watch a tutorial and not do anything with it or just copy it and think that you digested that information. Like, no, you have to create your own stuff, and that's where you really solidify that knowledge. But I mean, now I'm making these, now that I have that foundational knowledge and I'm learning how to apply those animation principles to a lot of my GIFs. I'll have people that are like, oh, like, did you use dynamics for like a handle flopping on a briefcase or something? I'm like, no, that's all keyframes. And someone would be like, oh, how did you do this? It looks amazing. It's like literally just keyframes. So it's this thing where, I used to be in the same place where I'd probably think like, oh, if anything looks slick that has like a kind of bouncy flopping on the ground kind of motion, you're like, oh, that's gotta be soft body dynamics or but it's like, no, you can actually, like, back in the old days, like, you would have to make something like that from scratch and actually know how to keyframe that movement and understand animation enough to know that if I have a keyframe here and a keyframe there, like, how do I get this movement to look smooth? And
brute force, man. Brute force.
Do you ever feel like maybe, like, if you use dynamics on some of the stuff, it might go a little bit faster? Or, like, are you just way more comfortable animating this stuff and it's going to look right that way?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's certain instances. So one thing I just made last week, I had to make a quick popcorn little animation, and I was like, all right, I'll just make a kernel and then emitter, pop out a bunch of kernels and popcorn pieces, and then I'll have dynamics on those kernels. Like, that's something where I have hundreds of kernels that if I actually keyframe that by hand, holy crap. So that's where, if I needed to, I could do it. But it's one of those things where if it's not a crutch anymore when you know how to do it without the crutches. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So so it's not this thing where, like I said before, I would make something that probably design-wise looked like crap, but then I put all this, shiny textures and reflections and stuff on it, and that kind of helped to cover up some of my weaknesses, and I used that stuff as a crutch, and, dynamics and, man, what else? Like exploding stuff and, all these new plugins that look really good, and you don't really need to know any foundational knowledge of how to use it because it just usually looks cool without doing anything. That's like Octane, where like you could just have a sphere with just no texture on it whatsoever, and you're like, hot damn, that looks
Why do you think I love Octane so much?
To it. Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this. Water. Have you dealt with using water a lot in that style?
In the sketching tune?
Making something look like a
splash.
splash.
You saw our the video that we did with David Ariev.
Right.
On the C4D Live the other day, we showed it to you. And we used he used X particles on it and then did the sketch and tune, like, or like a luminance shader or something to make it look like water.
Right. Yeah, so I've actually tried to do that exact same thing, like have like actually it was harder because I tried to have a glass fill up with water, and just the way that liquid system works just sometimes isn't conducive to kind of cartoonish water flowing like that. I don't know. So I don't know what kind of success you had with it, but I know for what I was doing, it didn't look all that great because it's hard.
It took a lot of time for him to do it. We were just, because sometimes, like the brute force thing, I was thinking, well, how can we do this without having to like screw with particles? How can we just brute force this into that style without having to spend that time? And there wasn't a great solution. And so David like spent a lot of time trying to do it in such a way to where it kind of isn't as realistic, basically, where it's more like kind of rounded and smooth.
Right. So I mean, I remember seeing that. I think it turned out good, really good. But again, even the fluid system in X particles could be a lot better. I mean, it's not along the lines of Turbulence FD or anything like that. Like with that, I feel like just with the simulation engine that they use, and here I sound like I know what the heck I'm talking about. I really don't. But I just know that whatever physics system they use is just way more accurate, or probably more deeper than X particles, that you could probably get something to look like some cartoon water, just because it's not as limited, but also it's pretty deep and hard to learn. Like that learning curve, that's kind of why I don't touch Turbulence FD, because I'm just like, no, this is just another one of those things that's going to distract me from, again, trying to work on my fundamental knowledge of things that I really need to learn. So,
and you work for yourself, right? I mean, you're self-employed, and I've found that I have, as a freelance artist, as someone running my own company, I have a bit more time than I did when I was working for a company. So I have more time to kind of do these tutorials and stuff. Like David and I were chatting on Skype today, and I was like, "What are you working on today?" He's like, "Oh, I'm just gonna watch tutorials all day today." Like, do you find
not
you have,
me, but David?
Yeah, David Ariev.
Yeah,
and so do you still like look at some of these tutorials and watch the tutorials like crazy and try and ingest as much information as you can? Or I don't know what I'm asking here. Or are you just so like crazy busy that you don't have time?
Yeah,
like, I don't know. I feel like if you're not constantly watching this stuff, you're gonna get so behind. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
But that's the thing is, and I think I'm just spending a lot more time around a lot of 2D animators these days, or even like game developers, where you don't need to learn a lot of technical things. Like if I could trade in, and this is a good question, maybe I'll ask you guys. I'm going to flip the script on you. I'm going to ask you the question. If you could go back and either have a ton of technical knowledge or have a bunch of really solid design and animation knowledge, which would you rather have?
Design and animation in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Like,
so I mean,
I would ever want to do is do cartoons. That's all.
But even not even cartoons. It's just, I think, and this is a thing that I really would make another good podcast or something, or an article. The difference between how, if you're a good designer and a good animator, like, it doesn't matter how much technical knowledge you have, like, you have those skills. Like, everything else is just a tool that you, like, and that's like the easy part. I feel like the easy part is learning a tool. The hardest part is learning the animation, learning the color theory and color harmonies and all those design principles. And because I don't know, I think that's where I stopped just digesting a bunch of random tutorials and went back to, I'm just gonna start creating things, and things that really, if you see a lot of my animations, like my GIFs, they're really not very technical. I mean, some of them maybe kind of are, like, maybe a pose morph or whatever, like character animation, maybe some very light IK, but it's all things that really I'm just focusing on, I just want to, and again, this goes back to the whole reason why I wanted to start doing Sketch and Tune to begin with, is removing all of the distractions and the sexy things and just focusing on the fundamental things. Like, I'm going to have, if it's a box or a cube, I want to make this look really interesting with just color in animation, nothing else. And I'm going to animate it with keyframes. And I don't have to learn sculpting dynamics or particles. And so it's almost to this point where, X particles, I used to be like, oh, I want to learn this. But now I've become this, I've become almost like, I don't even know what it is, like a design monk where you're like, no, strip yourself of all extravagance and just wear a robe and just design and animate, and you don't need to learn all of this. Like, everything is like, it's just the earth, and use the materials from the earth and you can make anything.
Well, there also is kind of a zen that happens if you do enough tutorials over the years. And like me, I am less on the like artistic side and more of the technical kind of guy. You can, after doing enough tutorials and using enough programs and learning enough programs, you kind of get this not design, but like a technical zen, to where you feel like maybe sometimes you still have to go look at a tutorial or two, but it's like, okay, skip ahead to 1 minute. Okay, he does that and he puts that in there. Okay, I'm done. Like, it's not one of those things where you sit there and you just take in like an entire hour-long tutorial. And then also, a lot of those tutorials are about the artistic side, and a lot of them are about the technical side. So sometimes I feel like, if I want to learn how to do something, I don't think it will be that difficult because there's something out there that'll teach me how to do it. However, doing those way back in the day has kind of gotten me to the point where now if somebody asks me how to do something, I'm pretty much going to know how to do it. Unless it's like something super crazy. Yeah. It's just a Zen thing. I don't know how to describe it, but it's a monk and Zen thing. I don't know. You just kind of get in the zone. And
I think
and it just gets easier.
Yeah, I think and that's the thing why I really like that I decided to start doing tutorials, and even that was kind of by accident. Like, I really didn't want to end up doing this. Like, it never crossed my mind, but I just kind of got forced into it one day because I was invited to present at NAB after doing one presentation, and that's like the first public speaking thing that I've done since like college. Nice. And they're like, yo, you did good. And I'm like, no, I didn't. That was pretty terrible. So it's kind of this thing where I'm like, well, if Maxon's flying me to Vegas and paying for me to do all this stuff, I should actually be way better at this. So that's kind of where, like, tutorials is what I did to practice being better at speaking. And I still suck at doing this, but I'm trying to. That's why I keep doing it, is to get better and better and better. But making a tutorial, and it requires you to have not only know how to do it, but also how to explain why you're doing the things you are, and how it works, like, in the guts of everything. Like, you're not just like, I'm pushing this button and just because. Like, no, you have to push this button because if you don't, this is going to do this, or whatever. Yeah,
that's what I've found behind it. There's a difference between just someone who's throwing up a tutorial telling you how to do something and someone who's doing a tutorial and explaining you the science behind it. In Life Thrill, I want to say, did a really good job in his Octane tutorials because he explains all the background behind it and everything. Which, by the way, In Life Thrill's Arnold series is out now. It's $80 inlifethrill.com. Yeah. We are not getting paid to do it. I just think he's a great person.
It's funny because I will be doing a tutorial sometimes, and until I'm in the moment explaining something in Cinema 4D, on, not really live, but kind of live on camera, until I get to that moment, sometimes I won't actually fully understand why I'm doing what I'm doing until I explain it to the camera.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. You teach yourself by teaching others.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I find I learn a lot more when I'm trying to create a tutorial. Like, I'll do the dang tutorial 2 or 3 times myself before I actually record it so that I know the ins and outs of everything.
Yeah.
But it's always good to know if something doesn't work, you are like, oh, well, this is why it didn't work. You don't look like a dumbass. Like, I don't know. Because you have that understanding of like, oh, well, because I know of how this program works, I know that I needed to do this or that or whatever. But I think that's something that's very beneficial, and why I still do tutorials to this day is just because, you know, I'll try to work on something and experiment and you know, gain a deeper understanding of how things work. And you know, that I still find a lot of joy in doing that, and also just teaching other people out there too, because I know that, you know, the biggest thing is that I know that when I was learning, there was all these other people out there like Nick on Grayscale Gorilla and all these other folks like Hello Lux and Tim Clapham, John Dickinson, all those guys. They did all this stuff for free, and you know, once you know, the greatest feeling you can get is when, you know, someone comes up to you and is like, thank you so much for, you know, basically helping me learn Cinema 4D. Like, especially with all the Sketch and Tune stuff, I know some 2D artists that are just like, thanks so much for opening my eyes to this. Like, I really love using Cinema 4D now, and that's like a pride thing for me, just because I love bringing people into the C4D community. So that's like that's a nice little bonus point for me. But, you know, just knowing that, because I'm trying to pay it forward to all these other people that maybe someday they'll do the same thing and then they'll teach me something, or because it's all these people that are, and that's why I love the community so much, is that there's so many people that are willing to share their knowledge, and it's not some like Fort Knox on what your process is. Like, it's very shareable. Like, if you're good at what you do, you don't need to hide things from everyone. Like, you're good. Yeah. And that's gonna, you know, that's gonna be all you really need.
That's true.
Totally. Yeah. I know the first, not this last NAB, but the year before, we had one person recognize us. And it was like the greatest thing in the world. Shout out to Luke, by the way. But then this year we had quite a few people recognize us, and like, you know, that felt great. That felt great that like, and it's so funny, once we started the podcast, it seems like we got more and more people, you know, interacting with us, and we kind of grew quite a bit more because of the podcast and not so much because of the tutorials. But it feels good whenever we get people coming up to us and saying hi, or emails.
Yeah, well, the emails the thing is, you get like real into it, and you might be really dedicated to it and do a bunch of tutorials and do a podcast, and you're just posting and you're checking your social feeds, and you're out there, you're trying to put yourself out there so much, and you're hoping that you're helping somebody. But like, it's not about a recognition thing as like at NAB as so much as it is like, there's what I'm doing is actually going somewhere. Someone's actually watching it. Well, thank
like
God.
These are real people behind some of these numbers.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm not talking to nobody, and wasting my time, because I'm trying to put it out there for people to actually, for it to be useful for some reason.
Yeah, because I mean, even I think maybe these days it's a little bit less taboo, but when I started doing tutorials, like maybe 5 years ago, like that was a big, like there wasn't a ton of people doing tutorials on stuff, but I know for me it was just a very big thing to put myself out there like that, because you're opening yourself up to so much criticism, especially when you're putting your face on things, and it's totally different if you're just putting some video up that, you know, like some animation, because you'd be like, yeah, that sucks, whatever. But if it's your tutorial and you're like, you suck, then that's like, that gets personal. Like, that's not my work, that's me. Like, oh no.
That's one of my biggest fears, is that like I do something completely wrong and stupid, and I post it, and then I'm like, everybody's like, why in the world did you do it that way with like 50 clicks when you could do it in one click.
My iChain character animation one that I did, putting the texture correctly on the face when there's just a button that you click in order to do it correctly, and I was like, I totally.
But that's
messed
good.
up.
Like I did my live cast earlier this week where I was just like, all right, how do we do this? And like everyone, like I don't know everything. You don't know everything. The people that helped me out that were in the C4D live chat room don't know everything. But it's just realizing that and learning from each other. And again, that's why what makes this community so great is that people are willing to share that knowledge, and hopefully they're not a jerk about it. Like, what the heck are you doing? You're a dummy. Why did you do things that way? Because I don't claim to know everything. I sure as heck don't. But when someone corrects me on something, I hope if they're nice about, I just hope that they're nice about it because, because then I appreciate people calling me out on things in a constructive way because I'm just trying to learn just like everyone else. But that's kind of why I tried to stay away from YouTube for so long because it seems like that's where all the jerks hang out. But actually, it hasn't been all that bad. Hasn't been all that bad so far. But
that's where we get most of our jerks from. Is YouTube.
There's flame wars going on YouTube. It's like Vimeo feels like a more comfortable community, but
yeah. But it's just like you said. It's just really fun to hear that people. Like if it's just one person that's just like, I learned something from this. Like, thanks so much for helping me out with that. I'm like, yes, like good job, me. Like I helped someone out.
I like seeing what people have done. Watching the tutorials and being like, I made this. I use your tutorial. Blah blah blah.
Yeah, that's one of the best things too. Like I make it a point in every single one of my tutorials at the end is saying that if you do something with this tutorial, like. Definitely show me because like I want to see it. Like if I took my method and did this one thing, I'm really interested to see what other people did. Like and another thing is just the fact that if you just copy a tutorial from start to finish, you're learning stuff, but you're really not building off of it and really injecting your own creativity or flexing your own creative muscle on that. And I think that's where you really grow is when you take something else, something that someone else made and taking it a step further.
Because otherwise you're just proving that you can follow instructions.
Exactly. Like that's the whole difference between a cook and a chef. Like a cook just kind of cooks and reads directions and a chef just like they create things from scratch.
Right.
I like that.
Where I heard that from, but yeah. It's probably Nick.
We're going to quote it as
Nick,
you now.
I think Nick said something like that.
Well, everybody kind of learns off of each other, and it's a trickle down effect. Somebody learns something and they post something, and then you learn from that, and then you really build up your skills over the years, and you start kind of passing that down. Everybody, like we were talking about at the beginning of the show, everybody kind of at the beginning has this feeling that everybody knows something and has like a secret. Except for them, and they're trying to figure out what's that secret. How does that person? Well, it's not only is it a lot of practice, but it's also the fact that they saw this style and they saw this style and they saw this tutorial, and it's like this combination of a whole that really builds them up. And most of the time, we all say, we feel like we're faking it. I think everybody's faking it to some degree. The people you idolize are faking it. I know that I feel like I am faking it like 100% of the time. Just making it up as I go. Hope this works.
Yeah, and the main difference between the people that are really good and you or anyone else is that, everyone gets down on themselves, but it's just you just got to keep on keeping on, keep learning and keep getting better because I think that's the major difference is the people that are really good, they kept at it and they kept learning and kept getting better. But I mean, it's so easy to get discouraged and just be like, because I was like that for the longest time where I was like, this just isn't working. Like just none of my stuff looks good. I'm following all these tutorials and, then once I started doing the animation, boot camp thing, like I was like, holy crap, like things are starting to make sense. And, I personally, for me, it was the whole thing between the technical knowledge and like the fundamental knowledge. Like I get such a better sense of accomplishment when someone comments on like, oh, that's like really smooth animation, or I love the colors of that, because that it took me so much longer and it's so much harder to learn those things to make that look good for someone to notice it than it is to like check out this random abstract particle render. It's a billion particles that my computer crapped out and go me. But it's like, yeah, but try to animate something correctly. Like you probably can.
Yeah.
But you can crap out a bunch of particles. But I know that was a thing like how many years ago where everyone's just posting random abstract particle tests, just trying to...
It still happens.
Yeah. Like,
and then there's the low poly
20
stuff.
bajillion particles. Like, okay.
Yeah.
How are you going to use that in a project now?
Yeah. People would post, that was, I don't know, maybe 3-4 years ago, was random geometry, garbled geometry with like shiny black glossy texture on it.
Oh, yep. Yeah, and like
that was the thing.
DeviantArt, I think that they probably still do stuff like that.
Yeah.
If you've heard of DeviantArt, I used to be on that all the time. They just do random abstract stuff all the time.
And I would look at that and think the same thing. Like, why is that good? Like maybe some of them were good, but then it's emulated so many times. But it's not just the emulation, you know. It's you have to get the edge. So there's the three. Man, I wish I got to come up with a name for this: emulation, education, repetition.
All right.
Right.
So
I like
it's
that.
not you can't have any one. You can't just have the education. You can't just repeat something. You can't just emulate someone's style. I think you have to do a combination of the three together to get anywhere.
You got to
That's a new
remix
t-shirt.
it.
I'm gonna make that a t-shirt.
It's too many. It's too many big words. These millennials can't read those words. It's just got to be emojis. Got to be a poop emoji, a smiley face emoji, and a rainbow.
Okay.
The
Okay.
eggplant.
So
Don't forget the eggplant.
And the eggplant.
2 poop emojis, a book emoji, and then a pen emoji. I guess I don't know.
There you go. That's a shirt. That's a shirt right there. But
So
I mean, that's the
speaking-
thing. It's just always chasing the sexy, shiny thing. And you can't get caught doing that because, like you said, at the end of the day, you follow one of those tutorials to make some crazy abstract thing. But I guarantee you, there's no client that's going to come to you to say that they need that for any commercial purpose.
Yeah.
Maybe like some
you gotta be
DJ that
real
has
good
no
at
budget
sales
at all.
if you're gonna try and sell that to a client.
Right, yeah. Or your
Yep.
people and work with a bunch of DJs that just need random abstract crap.
That's true. Yeah. But again, the people that but that's his style. But the people that are trying to do his style, that's strictly emulation and nothing else.
I always say you need to learn with a purpose, or you're just gonna kind of be floating around. Like for the longest time, I was just floating around, and like, you know, how many tutorials do you digest like in a month or a year? And at the end of each year, like how many of those tutorials do you actually, number one, use and practice, and number two, even remember what the heck you did, like what it was about.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's so much, there's a lot of knowledge out there, but unless you try to work towards some end goal of like, well, what am I really trying to get from this? Do I really just want to create abstract stuff all the time, or do I want to specifically learn some technical skill and not so much like just make something that looks sexy all the time? Because it's, if you're just chasing the sexy thing all the time, trends,
You
design
say
trends,
sexy, and I know you're talking like shiny, pretty, whatever, but I will tell you, your 2D animate or your
or the particles,
your sketch and tune stuff, that is sexy. Like the way what is it? The Russian doll
the suitcases.
That was
that
sexy.
was so much fun to make. But I think like that's like Dave was talking about the Zen. Like, man, when I get into an animation mode, like you just there. You're just in it. Like,
You lose track of time when you really get into something.
Like when I animate, I feel like those are the nights that I look at the clock and it's like 3 a.m. and I'm like, holy crap.
Yes.
Like, it's when I'm animating, and it's just so, I don't know. It's just something different to doing those kinds of things. Or even if it's modeling. Modeling's another one of those things where, yes, it's a fundamental. It's not something you need per se, but I mean, it sure does help a lot. That is also kind of cathartic in a way. You know, a lot of people say that sometimes rotoscoping's like that because you can just zone out, but
Yes.
man, I don't.
I can't do that.
I did
No.
that same project I was saying that took 150 hours or a year and a half. I spent
Yeah.
150 hours through the course of that, probably rotoscoping, and like
man.
rotoscoping out, like, you know, 10 seconds here and there from characters from movies and stuff like that. And this was before I knew Rotobrush or any of that stuff. So I'm literally pen tooling the entire thing.
Yeah.
Dude, I listened to a lot of Gary Vee. He got me pumped in order to try and get through that.
See, I like to put on music and listen to music, and that's what really kind of gets me in the zone. I think this will actually probably transition to another good topic here, but you know, Matt, you'll understand what I'm talking about. The last couple days,
Yeah, he hasn't been on Skype because he doesn't want to talk to us because it's too distracting.
it's too
While he's
distracting,
working.
and like I'm getting texts and I'm getting emails and I'm getting all this stuff, and I'm just like, I have to turn it off. It's driving me crazy. I turn on all my do not disturbs on my computers and everything, and put in the headphones. But I was able to finally get the beta 6 version of our plugin out last night at like 2 a.m. And I sat down to finish the final portions of it at probably 8 o'clock last night. And I remember going along, doing my thing, and I was looking at files on something I did earlier in the night. And it said it was created at 7 o'clock p.m. yesterday. And I was like, I didn't create that yesterday. I created that tonight. And I looked up and I'm like, oh my God, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. That was yesterday. But that's that zen, like once you get in that zone, you know, put on music, whatever you have to do, you can get in. But the question I have for you actually is, do you easily get distracted? And if so, how do you kind of get rid of distractions so that you can find that zen?
I think the biggest thing is, you know, it's not music or anything. I think you do. Well, I think the environment's something, but I think you just need to start doing the thing you need to do and just stick with it. Like, it sounds simple, but I mean, there's so many times where I procrastinate on even starting to do anything. I'm like researching, I'm trying to get inspiration on Dribble or whatever the heck I'm doing. I'm just no. Just start making stuff and just keep doing that, because that's the hardest part, is going from 0 miles an hour to 1 mile an hour, and then after that it's like way easier to go faster than that, because you got that inertia, you got the momentum. But man, that first step is just like I think it's like a psychological barrier too, that unless you like break that barrier of actually beginning your project or whatever task you're doing, and you just, like I said, keep procrastinating on like, oh well, no, maybe I need to think of other concepts, or I need to watch more Vimeo and get more inspiration there. It's like, no, you just got to start building stuff, and then
That's what
the rest
Merlin
will kind
Mann
of sort
says.
itself out.
Merlin Mann says about writing, he says, put your hand and the pen on the paper and just start going, or on the keyboard and just start going. It doesn't matter what it is, but like, make a rule, you don't take your fingers off. Which is great. But do you get phone calls? Do you get emails? Do you get texts all day? Like, does that distract you? I know for some people it's fine, but for me, I get to a point where it's so constant. There's no way I'm ever gonna zone in on anything.
Yeah, it's definitely something you gotta learn to not pay attention to. Because it's the thing where, you know, I'll have such ADD when everything's going on that I'll look for something. Like, it's the thing where you're like, I need to go to the bathroom to find something. And then you go to the bathroom and you're like, what was I in here for? And you're just like, I don't know. But it's like that thing where I'll be reading email and be like, I was supposed to look something up on Google. And then I'll have Google open and I'll be like, I forget what I was supposed to be looking for. Just because there's so many distractions. Your brain is so overloaded with all these distractions that... I have, you have the whole, I turned it off for the podcast is the do not disturb thing, and I don't get any notifications whatsoever.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's just
you text messages this entire time.
Yeah. You gotta embrace the antisocialness. And I think, working by yourself in your own home office like I do, like my dog, that's who I talk to every day.
Yeah.
Like during work.
I have become better friends with my dog since working at home.
Yeah. Unless when the mailman comes and then I have, then he's a distraction barking at him. But I mean, it's definitely a thing where you have to train yourself. And I would say, a lot of people have said that, first thing in the morning when you sit down at your computer, just start working. Like, don't check your email, don't check your Twitter, don't check anything. Just start working, because what'll happen to me is I'll start checking my email, and then like, oh, I got a Vimeo email that shows like the feed of yesterday, and I'm like, oh, that video looks nice. And then you open up your browser, and now you're on Vimeo, and then you're checking that out. And then you're like, oh, what's going on Twitter? And then you're on Twitter, and it's like the next thing you know, it's like noon and you haven't gotten any work done because you checked your email and you got
those are my favorite days.
Even the Facebook thing, as much as I try and stray from Facebook as much as I can, it'll be something where like, oh, I've got to get back in touch with that guy, but he hit me up on Facebook Messenger. So I go and open facebook.com to go to Messenger, but before I can do that, there's a really good cat video that comes up on the front page, and then all of a sudden I'm scrolling through my feed, and I'm in a fugue state. I guess all of a sudden it's lunchtime and I'm still scrolling.
I've just looked at cats all day.
I like the distraction, as weird as that sounds. Like, I love getting text messages, I love getting emails. I don't know, maybe I'm just an attention whore or something like that. I love it. I like tweeting stuff out. I like being on all these. I don't know. Maybe I like the social networking stuff of this side of the business, as well as I like answering emails. I like taking phone calls. I like doing this stuff. I would much rather
too.
actually. No, that's not true. I like making stuff, but like I like the creative side just as much as I do like running the business side.
Oh,
yeah,
right.
I think that's the thing, is the running the business is the excuse to engage in all that stuff. Because I'm the same way. It's like, well, I have a business to run too. And if I'm talking to people on Twitter, they're all designers. Like that's I can write that off.
Yeah,
right?
Maintain your social brand.
Right, yeah. So it's just, that's the thing where, maintaining my blog and then getting back to people's comments and then maybe tech stuff for some of the products that I sell. I have to answer those emails, like tech support. But I mean, when you have to run the business side of things, you can't ignore like posting your latest tutorial or podcast on Facebook and Twitter and all the interwebs. Like, you have to. That's a part of the getting your name out there and part of the advertising and stuff like that. So there's a lot more opportunities to fall off the old concentration wagon there.
See, well, I've noticed that, like, it's not like I'm going out and I'm sending emails saying, hey, check out Brograph.com. Hey, check out our podcast, blah, blah, blah. It's the simple stuff like getting on Twitter, throwing a 1 and 2 back with you or something, or Chad Ashley or something. We just send tweets out to random people who are posting stuff, or getting on your C4D live thing and just saying, hey, what's up, bro? I find that just through some of that simple stuff, our numbers start to grow. like
Right.
exponentially just because we're doing some of this small social networking stuff. And that's part of like almost like pushing our brand and stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, like
Right.
the other day, I think Kid Mograph, who we were following on Twitter, said, "Are people getting my tweets?" And Matt was like, "Yeah, coming through. We can see it." And so he started following us.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah, Kim Medgraff's awesome guy. If you want to talk about GIFs and doing really cool stuff in Cinema 4D, man, he's like king of the 80s vibes on the interwebs in the MoGraph world. But yeah, I think that another thing is that if someone takes the time out of their day to watch a tutorial or to, respond to a question I pose on Twitter or something like that, like I feel like I have the obligation to respond back, because and the thing is that some people are so surprised that I talk to them. I'm like, I'm just a dude, like I'm just a guy, I'm just a bro like you, bro.
Right.
I'm just a dude playing another dude pretending to be another dude.
But it's just one of those things where it's like, yeah, if you're gonna take the time out of your day to not only watch my tutorial but also say like, hey, thanks for doing that, like that's like the least I can do is respond back to you or answer a question that you have about something, and that's like a big part of your day. A big part of my day sometimes is just responding to questions and comments, and and in that you maintain a relationship with that community. Like, and the one thing I've been learning on YouTube is like, that's like a huge thing, I guess, is on YouTube and on Twitch, is just interacting with your audience is primary to whatever the hell you're actually doing there. Like you could be just talking to people on Twitch the whole, like I think that's what I did for half of my Twitch cast, is just talk to people in the chat. Wasn't actually like doing anything in cinema. But and for me, a lot of those times that's how I interact with people. Like I don't, unless it's going to NAB or doing a podcast with guys like you, like I don't interact with people in the industry that much. So that's my outlet, because I'm just like, again, I talk to my dog until my wife comes home. And I talk to my wife.
My wife. Oh, there it is.
My wife. Drink.
So yeah, I mean, it's my outlet, but yeah, sometimes you gotta turn on the old, gotta be antisocial today because I gotta get crap done. So and being in your home, when you work from home, it's sometimes you don't want it to be too easy to be antisocial, but sometimes you gotta be like, all right, I gotta go into hermit mode.
Yeah, I did move the Xbox downstairs.
That's funny.
Man, I get no work done.
I was saying I need to get an Xbox for upstairs because I was rendering for like 2 hours today. It's like, man, I need something to do.
I have my I always thought like I have an extra TV, but see, I worked at a news station where you had like having a TV on with CNN or something was like you had to have that on just in case there was breaking news, so you were informed on what kind of graphics you needed to do for whatever.
Because you got to make them as scary as possible to appeal to the mass audience.
Yeah, they got to be the most sensational thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, having that TV on, like I know for a fact, like I just start watching like especially like this election cycle. I'm just so glad I don't work in news, because I'd want to just throw myself in front of a truck or something first off. But yeah, I'd be so distracted just because so much stuff is going on. It's just shock value. Everything. Everything is breaking news all of the times.
Yeah. So anyone sends out a tweet and it's over.
Let me ask you this.
Breaking news.
So you do a lot of stuff with Grayscale Gorilla,
Yes.
He posts your stuff on his site, and you guys kind of have like this working collaboration together. How did that come about? Because I remember when you started posting stuff on there, he put this blog post out saying, hey, we'd like to welcome EJ Hassenfratz, blah, blah, blah. And I actually thought you were coming on full time to Grayscale, but then I see that you guys still have your separate thing, but you kind of collaborate together.
Yeah, I think that's what the tricky part was, is that I'm not like Chris, where Chris didn't have his own brand, so Chris kind of just hopped on and worked for Nick. But that's the thing, is that's why it's been tricky for me to get fully on board with what Nick's doing, just because just building the brand for so long, my own brand, that unless it was something that was different than what I'm already doing, like I'd either have to get paid pretty well to do it, or just to abandon everything I'm doing. So I think that's been the tricky part. But we do have some stuff coming up over the summer that I don't know if I can quite talk about yet, but I'm definitely going to be collaborating with Nick and Grayscale Gorilla more in the future, and we're always thinking of ways to make a more cohesive effort so it's not so separate and disjointed sometimes. But we'll see where it goes. I think this is the year where you're going to be seeing a lot of my dumb ugly face on his site, so we'll see what happens.
Now you don't have
should be fun
exclusivity deal now, do you?
Oh no, not at all. Okay. So that's the thing where it's like it's like a mutually beneficial thing where he gets my tutorials on his site and I get the views. So people know me, and
it's all for the exposure.
It's for the exposure.
It's all the exposure.
Exposure.
It's all for just exposing myself to the most amount of people.
Well, good, because I think you and I were talking about this on Twitter a while back. It would be fun to do like a tutorial bounce back and forth.
Yes, that's always something I've really wanted to experiment with, is like a tag team toots, and just kind of see how that worked, And I think
tag team toots. I call that that website
tagteamtoots.com. There you go.
You better get it before it goes live. Someone will take it. Well, and something else we were talking about doing too is you have been expressing some interest in Octane.
Yes.
But
oh man, have I been let down with the recent news.
I know you have.
I still don't know what's going on. Like, I got my damn trash can Mac Pro.
I'm telling you, man, you spend just a little bit of money, you can get that Mac Pro that you got working just phenomenal. And you actually probably will not go back to your trash can.
Yeah.
Or you'll just have it on the side and be like, oh, it's there.
The place where I used to work, I had one of the fully decked out trash cans, like the $10,000 trash can with everything in it. And I'm telling you, it feels no different sitting on this 2009 early model with the modifications that we've made.
Yeah, that's got to be a thing. We gotta start working on that, because with that latest news from Octane, I'm just like, all right, well, this is just not gonna happen then. So
not for a while anyway.
Yeah,
and I think, and I'm not sure.
Dude, you're moving to Denver. Denver flights to Dallas are like super cheap. We could just fly up there, hang out for the weekend, go skiing, do whatever, drink some sour beers.
Sour beers all the way. Yeah, I think that needs to happen. I think when I move and I get settled in, we need to talk, because I especially when this Octane Tune Shader comes out, I'm gonna be all over that.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
Flies on crap.
I think that it would be fun if we tried to instruct you on how to do it yourself. Because you've never done it before. And
you can see me electrocute myself live.
Yeah. That's the thing.
Here's the thing. Like, Dave has a tutorial of how to do it, And when I was building my Monster Mac, I was watching that tutorial, but I had the ability to just call him up and say, hey, am I doing this correct? Yeah. I think that would be a super fun, live streaming where we're like, okay, well, now you got to do this and this and this, and watch it from A to Z of how someone builds a Monster Mac.
Well, that's the thing. A lot of people say, well, I want to do this, but I don't feel like I have the technical skills to do it, or I'm nervous about it, or I don't know, I'm on the fence. And so if people were able to watch a video where we guide somebody through the process who has never done it before, and has no prior knowledge about how we went about doing it ourselves, so that they can look at it and be like, oh, well, that wasn't too bad. He didn't die. Yeah. He didn't get electrocuted.
I didn't die. And that's a good day.
It didn't blow up.
Every day that happens.
Because there's some really
he
scary
died during this
things.
tutorial. I don't know if
Yeah.
I want to do this.
Yeah.
And we'll see you next week with it.
There's like things that we do, like pulling the ground off of the plug with pliers and things that sound so horrible, but honestly it's really not that big of a deal if you understand the concept of why you're doing what you're doing. It's
this stuff is easy in comparison to the stuff that Tom Glimpse is doing, where he's like taking graphics cards and taking off the whole top fan of it and creating like water cooling so that it'll
desoldering.
Oh man, that is scary stuff.
Taking
This stuff,
chips
when I
off
have
the
to
board.
start melting steel and metal, then
Yeah.
we need you
I'm
to
definitely
get
getting
your
hurt
own
at some part of the
forging
process, though.
area in your house.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, we'll have to wait till I move to Denver just in case I set something on fire.
So both Tag Team Toots and Tag Team Tutorials are available. Which one should I buy?
Ooh.
Probably both, because somebody will take the one you don't buy.
All right.
Hover.com, $6.99.
Done.
They're not a sponsor either.
No, we don't have any
You need
sponsors.
to get sponsors, man.
I know.
We tried to get Octane as a sponsor since we talk about
didn't
them
want to.
all the time, but they didn't
They
want to
don't
sponsor
care.
us.
They
Yeah.
got money.
Man,
And we
got-
tried
they
to
got
get
that-
Wave Apps as a sponsor. They just sent us free socks. Because
Free
we
socks?
love Wave Apps. Wave Apps is
Yeah.
the
Oh, okay.
bomb.
Yeah.
you should at
but-
least get like an Octane t-shirt.
Right?
Even I
would
got
love
that.
I would love an Octane
You have an Octane
t-shirt.
t-shirt?
Well, actually, I gave it to David, so...
Oh, yeah.
Hey, do
Yeah.
you
I
think
sell
he showed us.
t-shirts?
What's that?
Do you sell t-shirts?
Me? I made some for myself
Uh-huh.
and gave a couple of them away, but actually I need to do that.
Yeah,
I'm
you
going to
should.
s-
Like,
I'm going to
honestly,
s-
like, it's kind of upsetting that you don't sell t-shirts and Grayscale doesn't sell t-shirts. Like, I'm telling
he
you,
just
I
makes
would
them
buy
himself.
these t-shirts.
Yeah.
And I would just wear those all the time. That's all I would wear.
Yeah, I want the t-shirt with the big eye on it.
Yeah,
There
totally.
you go. Then, people will think you're part of the Illuminati.
Yeah.
They're like, no,
I might already be. You never know.
In addition to that, I also follow a guy that does design stuff.
And I'm a lizard person.
Yeah.
Ask me about my secret society and my tutorials.
So a couple small things I wanted to touch on real quick. I have a hard out. That's what she said at 4:00, and I wish we could like keep going forever. But a couple things that came up. Harry Potter, the Star Wars thing that David did. You saw that, right?
Yes.
At NAB, he did the presentation on with the
EJ wasn't there yet. He wasn't. He hadn't shown
I
up.
was
You
a-
showed up
yeah.
like Tuesday or Wednesday,
so
right?
that's more like
But
a.
he did show me that on his iPhone,
Oh, okay, cool.
his mobile device.
There was an animated GIF of that hit the front page of Reddit this week.
yeah.
Oh, crap.
Yeah,
Was it Reddit or was it Imgur? Was Reddit on there?
Imgur.
Too? It was Imgur.
Ginger.
Yeah,
Oh, just as
So,
good.
that's
So
pretty good.
David's now famous, and he's not going to talk to either one of us anymore.
Yep.
That's right.
He's made it big time.
That's what he told us, at least. Those were his exact words.
And also, deactivations are now back on the Otoy website for Octane 3.
Thank goodness.
Thank goodness, because I've had some issues with it.
If you deactivate it, you have to deactivate both your Cinema 4D and your standalone. I ran into that problem. So, like, I couldn't get the Cinema 4D one to work at all, but you have to deactivate both of them.
Yeah. And then just again to reiterate on the plugin, we're very close. Beta 6 went out last night, so we've got a little bit of feedback, but man, I'm thinking we're really, really close to releasing the plugin. So
Yeah, I'm hoping. So Dave goes out of town. He's going to Iceland here really soon, and I'm hoping that it's out before then.
I'm trying to release it this week
all
if
the
it's
hate
possible.
mail can come to me while he's
Yes.
gone and out of the country.
Which leads to my question. You have products out there. Do you have any words of advice for somebody putting out their first product?
Well, make sure it works.
How about support? Like, do you have what do you do for support? Is it just email? How do you handle people who have questions and whatnot about? Because you do scripts, right? Like AE scripts and stuff.
Oh no. basically most of my stuff's like Espresso plugins. The only I'm doing my first AE script that I collaborated on with Shinsuke.
And are you writing that in Python or in C++ or something? Like,
I can't code at all. I just have I'm the idea man.
So in collaboration with this person, are they doing the coding and all that stuff?
Yeah, it's mostly Espresso and some Python. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's why, those guys are hard to come by that know Python really, really well. Which is why I asked you guys. I was like, you guys do the Python?
I wish.
Yeah.
You do the Python?
I know very basic C++. That's it.
There's so much I want to do, and I just can't because I would have to pay somebody to do it.
Mm-hmm.
That too.
And it's again one of those things like there's not enough hours in the day to also be doing this and also go learn how to program. It's I wish I had the Matrix and I could just
I know Kung Fu.
I know Python.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's it's hard to, because not only do you need to know someone who knows Python, but you also need someone who knows their way around. Like if you're building something for Cinema 4D or After Effects or whatever, because Python's used in so many different things as far as I know.
Yeah.
But yeah, those talented guys are hard to come by. But
man.
Yeah, if anyone's listening, we all could use Python guys.
Yeah.
So hey, Python guy.
Yeah.
Come get some.
Yeah. Because there's the thing is that I'm doing the same thing with this plugin that you're doing. There's a lot of Espresso. There's a lot of ridiculous Espresso. I am doing things in some very complicated ways because that's the only way I know how to do it. And there's probably like a piece of code that would take care of a lot of these things, but like I don't know. I wish there were other ways without having to learn.
Espresso is still pretty intricate in itself, like it takes a while to get your head wrapped around it.
Thing is, it's really slow unless Maxon speeds that up. Like I know my TextEdge Pro, that is just like a bowl of spaghetti of Espresso nodes and all that kind of stuff. And if Espresso was faster, we could do so much more with it, but it's just gotten to this point where if we add any more features, it's just going to be a behemoth of a thing. So it's just like at this standstill where I just need to find someone who does the Python that can come in and Pythonify it.
Yeah.
So you're saying it's slow in what way? Like calculation time?
Yeah, just because there's so much going on with Espresso that the calculations are laggy, or it's something that it would just be nicer if it was sped up.
Now, on your Espresso stuff in your plugins, do you protect on the tag? Do you do a protect so people don't?
Oh yeah, because then anyone can just rip that off and recreate it and sell it themselves.
That was my question, because we're doing that whole thing, and I keep thinking about the plugins that I buy aren't usually like that. Some of the initial things that I got from Grayscale Gorilla when it was like the very first plugin they came out with or whatever were like that. But I see all these plugins and they're either like fully integrated or they have all sorts of code, and that's the kind of thing where I'm like, man, I don't know where to start. Who do I talk to? Yeah. Like if you wanted to do activations, if you wanted to do serial numbers, if you wanted to do all of that, like we have nothing honestly protecting us from piracy except honesty.
Yeah, well, even with Grayscale Gorilla stuff, or I think this is right. When I was at NAB, I talked to the guys who create X particles, and they say they're one of the only pieces of software or plugin out there that hasn't been cracked.
Really?
Yeah. So whatever they're doing, it's a very rare thing to have people not crack it. It's also, a niche of a niche kind of product, but whatever system they have going on over there, like they figured out how to make an uncrackable version, at least their latest version.
Well,
but it's just something that, and I think Nick said this at one time too. It's like the people who pirate your stuff were never going to buy it anyways. So you're really not losing any money, but I mean, it is frustrating. It's kind of, for some people, it's just totally discouraged them from releasing anything at all. But
that's how I would feel too. It's like, wow, like more people pirated this than actually bought it.
I mean, you're gonna have that no matter what. But the people who work for studios or something, like if they go to their boss and like, hey, can we buy this? At least they're not burning their own money, so they're not going to pirate it for their work. And if you do find out that an actual business is pirating your software or something, you can get rich pretty quick, because that's illegal and that's a business, and it's not just a person. So,
all right, Dave, you got to go.
Yeah,
you got 3 minutes.
You got that hard out.
I got that hard out, yo.
It's getting a little. I won't say anything. Just leaving it there.
Getting pretty hard.
So we've had a few emails and a few tweets this week, but we're gonna hold those off till next week. A little bit shorter show this week, just because we're gonna want to start and end with EJ instead of just having a segment.
Instead of okay, EJ, get the hell out of here.
Well, now you're making Tom feel bad.
Nah, it's all right. No, we love Tom.
Tom's like, I wasn't important enough to have a whole show.
Well, also, when we would record it, it probably would have been like 2 a.m. where he's at. So
true.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, he was in Lithuania, so
yeah,
that's
fun.
Yeah, cool.
All right, cool.
Well, man, we really appreciate you coming on the show, taking the time.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having me.
I hope you enjoy the exposure.
Oh
yeah, right. For letting us distract you.
It was fun broing out. And now I'll wait for people to cringe that I was on a podcast called Brograph.
Bro.
Right? Isn't that what happens now?
Grope
Bros. Groping Bros? What?
Yeah, some people just don't get irony.
It's all right.
It's all right.
And look out for tagteamtoots.com.
Or Tag Team Tutorials.
Or Tag
You got both of them?
I'm going to buy. You said they were $6. It's showing up $13.
Oh, that's
dang,
pricey.
yo.
Yeah, it's too much.
Gotta dig into the piggy bank for that.
Well, now that's in a 2-year probably.
No, that's 1 year. Covered.
Dang, price is going up, yo.
Oh well.
Economy.
I'll
Man,
find
we're
it.
gonna have to make some more money to buy that.
Yeah.
Look under the seat cushions.
So you got anything else that you want to plug? With your website, your Twitter, all that fun mess?
Yeah, so I'm on theidesign.com, and the iDesign on Twitter, and the iDesign on Instagram, and the iDesign on Facebook. Just anything, just do /EYEDSYN, and I'm probably there. Even MySpace, maybe. I don't know.
Is that still
yeah, I don't know. Probably. I mean, AOL.com is still a thing, right?
Keyword search.
Is it? Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm going to hopefully be releasing After Effects script next week. It's kind of what my project is for this week.
What does the script do, if I can ask?
It's called Boil It, and it adds boil to your animation, the little kind of jittery edges kind of thing. Looks like everything has had too much coffee.
Cool.
Kind of deal. And it's also going to include some 3D models that are compatible with Cinema 4D Lite. So
Very
all those Creative Cloud users out there can actually play around with some 3D models, get into the 3D world.
Very cool.
But yeah, so that should be exciting. I'm really excited to finally come out with that. But yeah, and then I'm going to be recording. Oh, next week I'll be at Motion Fest in Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Fun.
Oh, really? My brother lives there.
Yeah, I've never been, but should be fun. And then it's off to Denver to look for a place to live.
Nice.
Awesome.
So, got a busy week next week, but Heading out west.
David Ariev says hi.
Hi, David.
Oh yeah.
He still remembers the little people after his claim to fame.
Well, after he got him drunk on the sour beers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude,
Once you get drunk on sour beers together.
That's one of my favorite stories from NAB. So we got invited to come to CAW, with all you guys. Paul invited us. And so we're sitting in our seats and no one's in there yet. And people, some of the Maxon group starts coming in. And then all of a sudden, David starts kind of like wobbling in. And he's like, dude, EJ got me drunk on sour beers. So funny.
They quit. Some of them pack quite a punch.
Yeah.
Say that.
Cool.
That was fun.
Well, EJ,
thank you guys so much, man.
Thanks
this was guys, not man, guys.
Bros.
Bros. Sorry. But yeah, this was fun. Good hanging out.
Yeah, totally.
Let's do. We got some other stuff we got to do at some later date.
Totally.
Yeah, totally. You got to come on again, and I'm hoping at some point we could do a panel type thing with like a whole bunch of people. That could be fun.
That'd be awesome.
That would be really fun.
Get David on here, and he can tell us how to become famous like him.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Yeah, totally.
Cool.
Yep. All right.
Thanks again. And I'm going to leave you guys with a question to ponder for next week before we go. All right. If a null's pivot point changes, would anybody notice?
Oh, gosh.
Just think about it. All right.
But it does make a sound in the woods, though.
Well, of course.
Well, it depends. Is it parented, or does it have a child on something?
Let's call it a rhetorical question.
Okay.
Well, it'll be part of the Zen
Which
thing.
comes first, the parent or the child?
The parent. Well, it depends on which one you make first.
The chicken or the egg, right? Where'd that parent come from?
Anyway.
That parent was a child.
You can rate us on iTunes, leave a review. We'd love to see those. We've been getting some more of those.
We're
subscribed to us.
Still running the T-shirt contest. So
the T-shirt contest
as of last week.
Yes.
If you leave us a review, you'll be entered in the T-shirt contest all of June. If you leave us a review, then you'll be entered in the T-shirt contest. Win a free T-shirt that you can wear, and maybe EJ will have some T-shirts by then that we could throw in the contest as well.
Oh,
yeah, I need to get on that.
Yeah.
Get them ready for SeaGraph. Are you guys going to SeaGraph?
We haven't been invited yet. If we get invited, totally.
I would like to go, but
I'm formally inviting you right now. There's your invitation.
You gonna pay for our flights and stuff?
No. I'll give you a fancy. I'll send you a postcard that you're cordially invited to pay your own way to SeaGraph.
Nice.
No, we're not planning on it at the moment.
Okay.
Well, we're also on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can check us out there, of course, YouTube, Brograph.com. Thanks again, and I'll try and wrap this up as gracefully as possible. Until next time, I'm Dave.
And I'm Matt.
Do I say my name?
You can, if you
My
want.
name's EJ.
Have a good one.
Later, bros.
Bye, bro.
Pretty good, I guess. Brograph.com, an online resource for learning critical components of Cinema 4D and After Effects, specifically catered to help you prevail as a motion graphic designer.
What's up, bros? Welcome to another Brograph motion graphics tutorial.
We give you professional time-saving tips, shortcuts, and lessons that help give you an edge over your fellow designers. Not only this, but our new Brograph Talks help you in your file management, hardware configuration, and client relations.
I love projects that scare me. When our art director comes to us and asks for something that I had never done before, man, it gets me pumped.
Join us for live sessions, check out our crazy Cinema 4D experiments, or just watch our Fun with Brograph series, where we show you practical applications for techniques learned in previous tutorials. Do this from the beginning, and your client is going to respect that, and they're going to respect you, and they're going to respect your time. Subscribe today and get automatic updates on the latest tutorials, tricks, tips, and inspiration brought to you by industry professionals Dave Koss and Matt Milstead, all with a slight dash of dry humor peppered in. Real nice banana.
Brograph.com, your source for tutorials that will help you thrive in the motion graphics industry. Don't just play around with Cinema 4D and After Effects, master it, and make money by becoming indispensable at your workplace.
We don't care how you get here, folks. Just get here. Subscribe now to Brograph Tutorials. It's pretty good, I guess.